Most men are stuck professionally, not because they lack talent. They're stuck because they're allergic to the very work that produces most promotions. See, nowadays we live in a hustle culture that tells you finding success is simply in finding what you love and doing it over and over again. But the Bible gives us a completely different principle. In fact, it tells us that many times your promotion is in how well you do the things that you hate. Fam, my name is Larry Crawford, and today we're going to break out of not getting promoted status with the discomfort of undesirable work. And I'm going to show you why the floor work that you've been avoiding is actually the foundation of the platform that God is building for you to stand on. So let's start by taking an honest look in the mirror. See, almost every man watching this has a task that he's avoiding. Maybe it's that spreadsheet that you were supposed to review and put notes on. Or maybe it's cleaning the garage so you can complete a project that you've been delaying for a while. Maybe it's the entry-level grunt work at the job that you feel like you've outgrown. Truth is, we avoid this stuff because it's not glamorous. It doesn't get us likes or pats on the back. It's not impressive. No one's going to thank you for it. And some of it we just avoid because it just plain out sucks. But here's the truth. The work that you avoid doesn't disappear into the thin air. It transforms into something worse. See, the work that you avoid becomes the ceiling that you live under. Man, I think we need to say that again with some dramatic music. And here's the hard truth. The work that you avoid doesn't just disappear into the thin air. It transforms into something worse. The stuff you avoid becomes the ceiling you live under. If you're too big for the small tasks, you're going to make yourself hard to find when it's time to assign the big ones. Think about this. In life, the little things always happen way more frequently than the big things. And it's the same way at work. See, the little tasks at work happen way more frequently than the big ones. If your boss can consistently associate you as a solution, then it makes more sense for you to be at the top of his or her mind when the next challenging situation comes, or the next opportunity for a problem solver comes. You're more likely to be viewed as a teammate instead of somebody who wants a free ride or a handout if you are already doing the small things. And the Bible says this over and over again. In fact, in the kingdom, your capacity for greatness is measured by how well you handle the grindiness. Take this story. It's the story of King David. See, before he was King David, he was just David. And David was the undesirable worker in his family. When the prophet Samuel came to anoint him as the next king, he visited David's house, and David's own dad didn't even invite him to the meeting. It's because David was out there in the dirt. He was in the middle of the field. He was herding sheep, shoveling poop, dealing with all the filth that comes with being a shepherd, isolated in the middle of nowhere. No one could tell if he was doing a good job or a bad job. In other words, he was doing all the grunt work. But David didn't quit. He didn't complain that he was too overqualified for the sheep. He just made the most of his time while he was out there. In fact, not only did he not complain, David fought lions and bears to protect those same sheep. And here's the magic of it. He used the undesirable time and the undesirable work to train his hands to be strong. And those same hands would eventually bring down the giant that we would soon know as Goliath. See, let me say it like this. If David had not mastered the sling out there in the middle of silence, out there where no one could pat him on the back, out there where no one was checking to see if he was getting good at it or not, he would have never survived when he got his moment in the spotlight. Okay, let's go back to the beginning of our conversation on the 5 discomforts. You remember when we started out, we talked about this thing called the AMCC, the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. That was that one that you guys said, I'm going to say this to somebody just so I can sound really smart, right? Well, it was that part of your brain that grows faster when you do tasks that feel beneath you. See, here's the deal. When you choose to do the low work with high excellence, something magical happens. You kill your ego and you give birth to humility. And humility is a powerful thing spiritually, and it's a powerful thing professionally. Because when you're humble, you'll say, I'll do the job. And that availability produces dependability. And then that dependability turns into being perceived as faithful. And that faithfulness and reliability in the eyes of an employer are more important than potential. So you get picked. One of my favorites, Mr. Myron Golden, that's the OG. He teaches that wealth follows the person that solves problems. The more problems you solve, the more money you get. The more problems you solve, the more opportunities you get. And listen, you can't afford to miss this. Undesirable work is just a problem that everyone else around you is too proud to solve. So when you take on that work, you become the problem solver in that moment. When you become the man that does what others won't, you become the man that has what others don't. This is how we turn undesirable work into a platform instead of a ceiling over our lives. Okay, write this down. This is what I call the promotion protocol. These are 4 things to keep in mind if you're stuck. Number 1 is what we call the excellence standard. It's a biblical principle. It's a professional principle. It'll work every time. And this is it. Here's the excellence standard. Do every single task that you are assigned like God is your direct supervisor. Number 2, and this one is really important for those who are stuck but don't know why we're stuck. Identify one task that you've been avoiding purely because of pride. In other words, you're saying, I'm just above this and I'm not doing it. You crossed your arms. Number 3, this is a good one, and I call this one solution cultivation. Ask a person who has a job that you'd like to have if there's anything that you can take off their plate. You might have to ask this question multiple times, and that's okay. But there are going to be some amazing things that you discover when you ask, and there are going to be some amazing things that you reveal about yourself to them when you ask that question. And number 4, this caps it off. No matter what task is presented to you, be willing to do that work, be willing to finish it 100%, and not tell anybody you did it. And I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking, LC, I'm being taken advantage of. Well, maybe you are. But you aren't working for them. You're training under them. In fact, them taking advantage of you has nothing to do with you taking advantage of God's promises to you. So if you're ready to break the ceiling over your life, you got to get low and be willing to do the floor work. Because the work that you do on the floor is going to prepare you when the doors of opportunity open. And trust me, those doors will open for you. But you better hope that your hands are strong enough to handle it when the opportunity comes. Next time, we're going to talk about the discomfort of spiritual dependence and what that truly means to us. Until then, stay limitless. God bless.